When I enter a trade, I prefer to go all in on that trade, with the amount of capital that I'm going to risk on that trade, and I prefer to scale out on the way up, and also if I experience weakness in the trade, then I'll scale out of the trade. Now let me explain how the mechanics of all this works. So I came up with a position size calculator. It's on Marowolf.com. I call it the Trade Emotionator. It helps me figure out if I'm being too heavy or too light. Anyway, what I'll do with this, and the whole idea of a calculator isn't new, and risking 1% per trade isn't new. Tying emotion to it is. I haven't seen it anywhere else. If you have, let me know. But the idea is that if let's say I have 100 grand, right? Just to keep the numbers round. Have 100 grand, you have 100 grand, and you want to risk 1% of that 100 grand, right? So you want to risk $1,000 on this trade. Well, if you get in at 100 and your stop loss is down at 95, you'll be able to buy X number of shares. Okay, great. Now, if you determine that, you know what, instead of having it at 100 and at 95, I think I'll have it at 198, right? So if that's the case, you'll be able to buy significantly more shares than if your stop loss was down at 95, right? You're basically backing into the number of shares that you can buy. So I'm just interested in risking that 1% or whatever percentage of capital that I want to risk on a trade. I'm just interested in risking that and getting in. And then if the trade doesn't work out, like if I get stopped out immediately, then I know I'm out this much. Now, as the trade is working and going in my favor, I want to have multiple ways to get out. And it kind of goes back to like having a fire exit, right? Like, so let's say you walk into a movie theater, right? And you've got the doors right behind you. That's your stop loss. The biggest doors in the theater, right? Like you could just run right out. Great. But I want to have other exits around the theater for this trade in case of things go badly. So ideally, we're in this trade and we're selling into strength along the way. Great. So I want to have ways to pay myself as the trade is working in my favor. The way that I'll do that is by selling at multiples of whatever I risked. So to go back to the first example, if I entered at 100 and my stop loss is down at 95, then I might take a little bit off when I make $5. So at 105, I might sell a little bit. At 110, I might sell a little bit more, and 115, and so on. Then the other type of way that I'll exit a trade is with a trailing stop. And this is where, if you've seen any of the videos that I've done about moving averages, that's part of how I'm using a moving average too, where if price is being supported along a certain moving average and then all of a sudden it stops getting that support, then it's a sign that price has, at least right now, has started to lose a little bit of the momentum. And as a trend follower, that's important to me. So I want to start scaling out since I'm following the trend. Then I have this other way of exiting, which I call a backstop. Now, if you are familiar with this guy, David Goggins, not a trader, but in his book, Can't Hurt Me, one of the things that he talks about are backstops. He was talking about it from the perspective of going through Delta Force training. And he was on this trail. He was thinking about visualizing getting into Delta Force and how great it would be. But in doing so, he forgot to set backstops on this course. So he's like running through the woods. Imagine him running through the woods. And normally he would be plotting like, okay, like if I get off course, I'll double back over here or double back over there. And because he's busy daydreaming about the end, he forgot to set his backstops. And all of a sudden, he's 2-3 miles off course, tries to get back on real quick, make it to the end, doesn't get into delta force, and fails. I see that as support levels on a chart. So as price is running up, then it consolidates, moves up some more. Well, there's your backstop. It should not fall back below the support level that it made. Otherwise, that's telling you that the trend is changing some more. So another way to start piecing out of the trade as it's going. So I like having multiple ways to get out of the trade. I think of it as giving the market multiple ways to pay us, right? Like, well, when we think of it that way, it feels good to sell. If we think of it as like, oh man, like a trade is working and I want to stay with it till the end, well, that's a way of also digging in our heels and letting lots of profits come back in and losing most of them. So that's why I've adopted the mindset of having multiple ways to sell, scaling out of trades, and when I'm looking to get into a trade, whatever capital I want to put at risk, that's how I'm getting in.